Okay, here we are. Hey, Joaquina, how are you?
Hey, thank you for letting me share my experience here. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. It's super to have you on. I'll let you give you a time to just retweet so we're good to go.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it's amazing. Like I usually kind of start these interviews by letting you and whoever is on, talk a little bit about your background and how you got into the crypto art like ecosystem and
Mhm.
how it all started for you. So I'd love to start exactly in the same way and hear a little bit about your story.
Sure. Well, I have studied new media, so that's my background. Always worked with digital arts and installations and that kind of artworks. So I joined the space in March last year when the pandemic started because I was working in live events. Yes, and festivals. So for me, it was really a really huge impact on my work, on my career. But like many good things came up from that problem from the pandemic that now I see as like one of the best things that actually happened to my career, right? But yeah, my friend Frenetic Boyd, which is a great artist in the space, he insisted me to join. Like, yeah, you have to share your work here because um, for me it was weird because there is no space in the traditional art market for the kind of artworks that I make. So it was I was having like um I didn't have like a really nice like approach to that word. Like I thought it was only like really conservative people. But yeah, I minted the first time in Maker's Place. And from that day, I think it was like really everything happens really fast. Like it really has transformed my artistic practice, because I was like a local artist in before that, right? So when I joined the space, I started to have a much like a broader vision of art and yeah, practices. So yes, it's amazing and how everything happened so fast.
It's interesting. I think it was like almost like a month ago, we had a conversation with Frenetic, and obviously, like I think I remember actually when I kind of like started vertical crypto art back in like July of last year. Most of the artists that I saw kind of like from afar, because at the start I was like just looking and kind of like figuring out how the space moved, were from Argentina. And it's obviously, like crypto arg has now, has created like the collective, like it's amazing. But I just remember there was such a strong, um, yeah, almost like a culture of like crypto art within Argentina, which is so interesting. And yeah, I think it's like one of the, I guess, like movements, like biggest kind of like trends that we see in like the space, right?
Mhm. Yes, we see it like a movement. We have built really like an amazing community. At the beginning, last year we were 5 people in crypto art, and now we are 150 people in the server, and everyone is helping each other. Yes, we I think like as Argentinian culture has like the community, cultural like community and culture are really like yeah, they work together, and for us it was like our opportunity. As I told you before, like there is no space for digital art in the traditional, yeah, museums or galleries until now that they are actually paying attention to us, right? But last year it was not like that. So for us was like a space of also contention, you know, like, yes, like have like friendship. So yes, that is why I think we have like a strong movement, because we're like really profoundly like compromised with the collective actions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really interesting, because I do think that obviously like a lot of other collectives have kind of like stemmed from, you know, like crypto art and the ecosystem. And I guess like it's human nature to like, you know, kind of like build groups around certain like visions and shared thoughts. But I always thought that this kind of like Argentinian artistic like movement within crypto art was like very like it was a founding movement of the whole like ecosystem. um yeah, I remember like even like Chromatica, like Daira, these are all artists that, you know, I had like encountered and spoke to like really early on. So it's, yeah, it's super interesting. And
Yeah.
I love the crypto art building Insomnium, like it's
Oh,
amazing.
Insomnium, yes, with
Yeah.
the incubator of crypto art. Yes, we did a couple of events there. It is really amazing to have that kind of spaces to show the art. Yes.
And regarding, you know, especially like for an artist like yourself that has a really like immersive creative practice. So obviously like you're building in XR and VR, you do like live visuals. Obviously, like as you mentioned, like the space you know, has been like an opener for you to like showcase your art and your creative practice. Like how do you think, what does, first of all, what does like the metaverse represent for you as an artist, and is what sort of like opportunities has it allowed for you to explore?
Mm. Well, I think the metaverse, it's like the best way to show my work, right? It happened to me that all the VR environments that I created before were like individual experiences. So they they were showed in a festival where you put your headset and it's an individual journey.
Mhm.
So they have the fact of having um, the access to this like parallel dimension, when where you can actually be with other people at the same time. It's it's really like eye opening, and also I think like it was the first time that I could do the both, like both of my practices were like combined, because I had the possibility of mixing on one hand the live event, the performance, the visual performance, and at the same time like showing my work on its native place, which is digital space, right? So um so yes, you can imagine something and then just make it as a building and then show your art there. Yeah, it's really, it seems like a dream now, like everything happened like really fast. But yeah, I was when I think of the past, and my practice, how it evolved, I think, yeah, it was a perfect process, because before that I thought I was having like two different practices, right? Like the performance or live events, and on the other hand the images and the animations. And yeah, in the metaverse, I have the chance to do both. So yes, it's really amazing. Yes.
Yeah, and I really like what you mentioned around the collective experience
Mm,
of, you know, seeing these experiences and seeing this art, because as you say, like when you go into like, you know, even like installations, like even in museums, and you're looking at VR, you know, you're on your own.
mm,
But within like virtual land, or, you know, in the metaverse, like you're sharing this with other, still avatars, but people, you know, like around you. So yeah, actually that's something that for sure it brings even more, you know, the experience kind of changes. I can imagine
mm.
like you also get like feedback from like different people, I guess, and like that kind of like enhances the whole experience for yourself too.
Sure. Yes, and also what you mentioned about avatars, I think that it's another dimension of the self design, right? We're also designing ourselves all the time. And yeah, in the metaverse, it's just extreme because you can be just like a bird or I don't know, a fungi or whatever you want to. So it's like the ultimate creative self design space. So yes, I was actually in the metaverse, like in Somnium. My avatar is one of my characters, which is like, yeah, the crypto baby character. So it was, for me, it was really important to be embodied in that avatar, which is also my artwork. So yes, yes.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And actually, talking about since you mentioned it, talking about crypto baby, like I would love to know the story of this name of this avatar, and also of the baby itself, which I know it's like, well, I've seen it's kind of showing up in a lot of your pieces.
Yes, well, she's actually not a baby. She's like a representation of Venus or Aphrodite. So she's is like striped of everything that is superfluous. So she doesn't need to feel. She doesn't need anything to feel like enjoyment or pleasure. That's why, like, she's naked. She doesn't even have hair. So it's kind of a situation where um of yeah, it represents like the kind of absolute pleasure, or yes, absolute desire, like a state of plenitude, uh that yeah, it often reminds me of the act of creation as well. um so yeah, it's crypto baby. It's called baby more like in a sexual way at some point. uh but yeah, it's a woman, not a baby. But I know many people confuses it because of the name, because it also have like a baby face. But yeah, it's just like an Aphrodite.
And I'd love to know, like, how did that kind of like, is it something that you envisioned and then embodied, like specifically when you kind of got into the space, or was it something that you've been doing kind of like in the past and then I guess like transferred into like digital art and
Mhm.
crypto art specifically?
Well, no, I've been working with that image for a long time. um yes, here in Argentina we have like a really big feminism movement. And yeah, there are many representation of naked woman in states of pleasure. I just took that image to a digital realm, right? Like, yeah, the feminine desire, just not like thinking of what other people think of them, right? Just like, uh, yes, feeling comfortable with your own body. That is an idea that I've been working with for a long time. And here, with this on the metaverse and the crypto art space, I had the chance to expand that vision, because also you have the opportunity to be whatever you want to in this space, right? You're just a name or an avatar on Twitter. Well, now we are seeing our faces, right? But um yes, it made me imagine so many scenarios. And um yeah, it expanded. Like, it was an idea before I started in the space, but actually in the space I really had the chance to expand my that idea of the Venus. Yes.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, like, you touched on this just now, but it's just the idea of, being whoever, you're not really
Mhm.
conditioned by your gender, or if you don't want to, at least like you're not conditioned by that. So the animosity, I think, like now probably the space has changed quite a bit. Like
Mhm.
there's not much of an animosity anymore, although still like a lot of artists and collectors do have that, but how do you think, like, what does that mean specifically for, I guess, like certain like groups and certain like gender groups? Like, is it, has it been like, yeah, I'd love to kind of like explore a little bit this, like when you kind of like got into the space, like was it something that you thought, I would like Crypto Baby obviously has, is a name, but it can be a male or a female, it can be, or it can be both. Like it doesn't have to be representative. Like, is that something that you wanted to show, like that feminine kind of like side of you and your art?
Well, yes. I think it more as an idea. It's difficult to not to show that you are a woman also. Like I feel like when you start talking about these gender things, and then your representations are this kind of Aphrodites. I think it shows also your ideas and your about gender, right? So at the beginning, I tried to be anonymous, but yeah, for me, it is not a problem. I don't have a problem to say that I am a woman or anything, but it's really nice to see that you can be whatever you want to, right? And there are no like vertical structures as in other art spaces. So the anonymity it's a choice, and I think that it's really valuable in this space. You can create your own character, your own being. Yes. I don't know the exact answer for that one, so I don't know if I answered your question, but yes.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's the underlying, what you're mentioning, and the underlying kind of like theme is that you can do whatever you want. That freedom of choice, freedom of expression, freedom of creativity. Like it's kind of common within many areas, I think, of crypto art.
Yeah, and I think also like in the traditional art world, like you have to say certain things and approach in certain ways and do like different steps in order to live from your art. And I think like here you can just like everything is like really wide, and you have many kind of collectors and people to interact with, because there's people from all over the world, so there are no recipes. And yeah, I think that is why it's really amazing to just focus on what you love to do and focus on producing your art, and then it will have a space. It will have someone who is going to be interested in your work. It's like, it's not like in traditional galleries or museums that you have to like do certain steps to be inside of that circuit.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess you mentioned that you started kind of like coming in the space like last year. Like, how do you think this and the space like has changed? Because obviously like now traditional art world is in the space, they are interested, they are looking. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, of course. I think lots of these ideas are something that last year were easier, like do whatever you want, right? I think that now there's certain path, but we as artists also have, I think, the responsibility to create the environment that we want for our works, right? Like it's like a symbiotic it's like, yeah, conversation. If you just do what like all other artists made in the past, well, the space is going to be the same as the traditional art market. But we now have the chance to just like make yes, like build this space as a community or as whatever we want to, but we have to, that is why I think CryptoArk and those communities are really important, because we have these conversations always, like, what kind of space do we want to build. We have to be really critical about it. We don't want to repeat the things that we complain about of the traditional art market. So it has changed, but I think it's really a horizontal structure at this point yet, and it's ruled by communities. So yes, that is what I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, some of the one of the and it's true, like each and every one of us, I think, has a responsibility towards not replicating what is already, happening in any. I think also, like, even if you think about like like if we zoom out of the art market just in general, like in the world, that we don't want things, replicating, whether it's like certain associations, whether it's like how we think about I don't know, like money, like lots of things I think are important, like themes that I think are like touched on, like, because it's such an intersection of so many different things. Like there's art, but there's also a big financial side to this world too. So yeah, it's interesting. I think, obviously, like one of the, I guess, institutions that is doing this and like setting an example is obviously like MoCA, which they have you're part of the permanent collection, like they have collected one of your pieces, which I actually have up, so I'm gonna share my screen. One sec. And yeah, I'd love to maybe like touch on this piece. It's an early piece of yours, and I'd love to, obviously, like the baby, like the figure of the crypto baby is there. So I'd love to maybe like talk a little bit about this piece.
Yes, that one is Portal. As I told you before, like crypto baby, it's in a magic. She's always represented in a magic space, magic environment, because I try to, in the images that I represent her, I try to make something that try uh to the people to feel like pleasure when you see it, right? That's why I use like shiny colors, and that palette and everything is like quite like harmonic. I have other pieces where it's like more chaotic, right? But yeah, I think that one is those that piece I made it after a long meditation. I really try to practice like meditations or visualizations, like a non-religious spirituality. And yeah, it takes me to different places, and I imagine like I'm that avatar. Yeah, it's like a internal world that I created, and then I try to express it in certain images. And Portal is one of those. The name Portal, it shows because it's like a mental, like a spiritual realm, right? That I bring to reality, to the or digital space, which is real as well, and just like express it in an image.
Awesome. Yeah. And also I was obviously like looking through your profile, and I know that the last piece that you did is this one, which is History of Cyber Art.
Hmm.
Which I really found like super interesting. Like I think obviously it's probably like, a much more like complex piece.
Hmm.
Um and I'd love to touch a little bit on this. Like I know, as the description says, there's like the presence of the avatar, which has a hybrid identity. So it's kind of like something that we were talking about before. But I'd love to know like what was the concept behind this, and
Hmm.
talk a little bit about this one, because it's an
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you. Well, I think that all of the things that are happening like right now in the art space, like crypto art space, they have their foundation on actually really ancient basis of art, right? Like, so that I try to represent some traditional art pieces, or Roman or Greek pieces, and in the I mean, in the bones, or in the dead spaces where that art is, we have built a new ecosystem, but it also reminds us of that time. So everything is connected. It's not like everything like our like electrical world at the moment, it's based on nothing. It is actually this, it's the same. It's part of the ancient art world as well. Like everything that is happening now, it's because um
Mhm.
yeah, there were like many experiences and many cultures representing this kind of figures. Like all the ideas that we think we have, they're not really our ideas. It's just like uh uh summatory yes, representations of the being and of the self in yeah, thousands of years or so. That is why I try to make that animation. It is always like difficult to represent these ideas just in an animation. So yeah, I think that it's important to have like this kind of conversations where I can talk about it, because it sounds really crazy. You cannot say all of that in a paragraph underneath.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, every time there's like it's obvious I think it's great the both. Like there's like a part where it's like really nice to see how people interpret your art without
Mhm.
you like telling them. But then also like on the flip side, like I always like to kind of have that counter the artist like idea, like how did this come about, like where was the inspiration, what does it mean, so that I can always balance out like what I initially thought and then what the reality, I guess, is. But I think you touched on something like interesting. I actually talked about this last week with Menard, because he was also talking about like how traditional art and in general like art history like is important within his practice, and is like actually allowing him to further develop within his digital realm, which I think is like a very interesting concept, and it's something that you were speaking about now. So I'd love to maybe like expand a little bit on that. Like, is it something that you feel there are things from traditional art and just in general like art history that you bring on and like kind of build upon within your practice?
Well, I think yeah, in terms of, I think more in terms of the images, I think that there is not only in my practice, but I see in the crypto art space, the search for the roots of what we think about art, right? Like compositions and like traditional things that actually, if I think about contemporary art, it's like there are many pieces that try to be separated from the idea of the like composition, and yeah, like the more like formal way of making an image. And it's kind of surprising that in the newest space, which we can call, yeah, the crypto art space, there's many people, including me, like trying to bring things from the back, from the past, in terms of different elements, or yes, that maybe it's like I feel like we try to be attached to something of the past, right? Like we're working with new technologies and new media and new everything is really new, but as humans we also need to go back to our roots.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that that yeah, I think like many traditional formal things that from the art are also present in the newest pieces of artists at this moment. So everything is like really connected, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I wonder, as well, and maybe this is like the last kind of like thought or like question, like how do you think, or what are things that like you um are excited and like are thinking about how the space can like really develop and nurture like new kind of
Mm.
forms of like creativity. Like obviously, digital art is having the time of the century. Like it now has a place and a space to be showcased. Like how do you think it's going to develop, and what are like
Mm.
which might be like immersive experiences, VR, AR. I feel like it's still a very maybe untapped um, like realm.
Yes, that's true. I think like most of the pieces that are on the crypto art market are like images or animations, right? Like there are just a few. There are like not many examples of objects or any or other kind of things. So I think we're like a really early stage. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to what other artists that are more related to maybe programming are doing, right? I just a few days ago I saw this artist that her her piece was actually making the smart contract. So there's many things of the technology that we have to explore. And yeah, there's something like the collectors are still really looking into images and animations. But as I told you before, like we as artists, we have to build the space also as we develop and enter this new realm. And I think like we once like we had a time that we try to accomplish that we're part of the art world, and yeah, now digital art is part of the art world. But now that we're on this stage, it's a great time to start expanding the possibilities, because the technology is really like amazing. And we can, yeah, I've seen really well, actually there are many examples of this kind of exploratory artworks, like the one of Pac, right? That if you the unlockables that were different pieces mixed. So if you collected two of them, then you had uh, like a third piece. So there are many like programming things that we can start doing in order to make like really new pieces or new experiences. I'm personally exploring those things, trying to see um, what kind of pieces came out if I forget for a minute of the formal things of the artwork, and just like see the creative process in the technique, right? Which is part of the also the practice of new media, like um, bring different technologies to make like using the art and the technique as an investigation to make new pieces and new ways of sharing art. Yes, I'm really excited about that, because I think we're in a really like early stage of
Yeah.
this space. And yeah, that's all. I think.
No, I think it's interesting. It's like almost while you were talking, I was thinking, and it's actually like almost like an intersection of like technology, like almost like conceptual art in a way, because it
Mhm.
kind of like goes into really like different dynamics. Like it's almost
Mhm.
like an experience in itself to actually like
Mhm.
mint, like the process of like tokenizing and minting, like it kind of um embodies like not only an image or a photo or a video, but actually like a whole almost like 360 kind of experience. So that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Pac was always the one who said that the token is the art, which it's pretty true. We have a comment that is in Spanish. If you want to read it out.
Yes. So it says, la inteligencia artificial y el arte digital está transformando todo, which means AI and digital art are transforming everything. Yes, it is. I agree.
Awesome. So I guess that's a good way to end the conversation. But thank you so much, Joaquina. Like it was great to speak and to chat. So thanks so much for the time.
Thank you. I really had a really nice time talking to you, and hope to see you again in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always like waiting for the new. I always hang out when you do like crypto org events. So whenever the next one is on, I'll be happily joining.
Sure, I'll invite you then.
Amazing. Speak soon. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.